Hello Flywheelers, I bought a mega tipper today. This is the largest on-road tipper available in India. It's a Tata Signa 4825.TK with a 10x4 configuration. Welcome to Flywheel. As you are aware, India is one of the fastest growing country in the world, especially in case of infrastructure. And infrastructure is the backbone of any developing nation. And the backbone of infrastructure is basically the construction equipment and construction trucks. And you know, we are all fond of trucks. I know a lot of audience are there for trucks, and I'm also loving trucks. In this case, it's the largest on-road tipper available in India with 5 axle, and this plays a big role in the development of the country. And for me, it's a special review because it's an exclusive review for the first time in India. Because recently we've done few Tata trucks and it was so well accepted. Tata has actually arranged me this truck in Pune, but I couldn't travel to Pune because of this COVID situation. So I got an opportunity here in Kerala with a customer truck. So we are going to have an experience with this truck in Kerala for you guys. The Signa comes with one of the most popular cabin for Tata trucks, which is actually from the 80s, but it's been evolved over the time, especially in the interior, which we'll see later. Anyway, in the front they have a new signature face, which is a smiling face, which Tata calls. You can see a lot of elements that added on from earlier. There is a grab handle to get onto the bumper and clean the glass. There is a unicorn type mirror, which is actually for the front. It's look good actually. And earlier the lights used to be here on the cabin, but now it's on the bumper. It's better for visibility, and it's also strong bumper, so it can protect well. Coming onto the side, you can see a door which is proper from the earlier designs, but again this what I understood is like it's inspired from early 80s Mercedes trucks, which was known as Powerliner and LP series. And those days Tata was like Tata were having a collaboration earlier with Mercedes, and they used to make truck together, but again later on they also used to be inspired from those trucks. So this is something which is seen from the 80s and look same, but again it doesn't look outdated actually. It looks very good, and it's a sleeper cabin. You can see double window over there. It's tall cabin, but it's not very tall inside like the Prima. Again, I will check that later. And once behind the cabin, you can see this air filter and the snorkel for the air filter. There is again a vertical exhaust which is on the left side, which I'll show you later. There's a tank for the Hiva tipper where they actually collect the lubricant for the hydraulics. And this is a 10x4x4 configuration. So normally we don't use this in India mostly. Like we normally in Europe we use this method of mentioning as 10x4 or maybe 8x4x4, 8x8x4. So that second by 4 or by 2 or by 6 is actually meant for the steerable axle. So in this case it's actually 10x4x4. By 4 in the sense bar 4. So that 4 is actually for this 2 steerable axle which is in the front. There is to be 10x4x6 where there may be a third axle which is steerable. It could be the last axle or maybe the third axle over here. In this case it's a 2 axle steerable one. Both these are connected, and once you steer it, it steers according to the turn, and the front axle actually steer a little more angled for the better maneuverability. You can see all the mechanism over here, separate leaf springs are there. This is having around 6.5 meter wheelbase, and the wheelbase is actually filled. Here is a tank which is a fiber tank, and so also the AdBlue tank, which is quite essential for BS6 vehicle. This axle is a dead axle basically. Dead axle in the sense there is no drive to the axle, and this is actually a liftable axle also. So it's having an air suspension which can be lifted. So you can see the dirt on this tire is not there in the tire because this is actually driven and right down to the yard, but here this was lifted. Once you parked it lower down, it can be operated manually also with a touch of a button. Here there is no drive axle. Coming on to here on this third or maybe the fourth axle over here and fifth are the actually drive axle. There is 2 configuration available in the Signa, 10x2 and 10x4. Then this is a 10x4 where you have 2 drive axle, and here is the drive axle where normally the power from the gearbox is transferred. And the method of transferring the power is different, because the power normally the drive axle comes to the mid of this axle, but now in this case it comes to the up. There is again a small gearbox which actually transfer the power to the axle on the front, and the rest of the portion will distribute the power to the rear with another drive shaft which is actually driving this, and this can be lockable. Coming onto the rear, you can see the proper tipper like rear with a good rear departure ankle. There is a strong heavy chassis we can see from here, and earlier days we used to see a very vacant rear end for most of the truck. Now it is all equipped and fully occupied. You can see the drive axle, you can see the balance rod, lot of things, even the air compressors, everything is filled very well and used all the maximum space. And this one actually is having a double strong heavy chassis. We can see the double reinforcement over here, because this is a 48 tonner truck where you can maybe put a load or payload up to 35 ton. So, you need a heavy chassis for this. So, a huge high tipper. So, this can be tilted using the button inside. So, these are the drive axle as I mentioned. You can see over here there is a different leaf spring design. So, this is like inverse leaf spring, where on the top you can see the smaller one, and on the below is the longer one, which actually is good for the strength and carrying load. And this can be it is used to balance between the axle when you drive. That's a mechanism over there. And come over here, you can see that drive axle which I mentioned, that the drive shaft which actually connect to the upper portion of the differential, and this power is being delivered to the first axle and the rest go to the second axle. And here you can see again here the air suspension for the rear axle. Yes, there is an air compressor which actually lift this axles. So, these are the mechanism which is used in this truck. There is air tank over here, there is few more air tanks inside, spare wheel, 48 volt battery, and this is the vertical exhaust which I mentioned. And it is a big truck, actually it is a huge truck, and this is the ongoing version. There is a tipper version which is used for mine and off-road also, but in this case we are actually driving the on-road version. So, this one, so let us now check the interior, and after that we will go for the drive. Hi, before I get in, I will show you some equipments over here. This is the park brake. Now it's engaged. If you release it here, it will disengage like this. This is how it is worked. This is the lock to operate the tipper. You can lock it and use this lever to operate the tipper. There is a button over here. Engage this. Put it down, it release. Put it up, it tips up. So it is how it is operated. I'll show you the visual of how it actually tips up. Yes, engine is on. It's too hot over outside, so I got to the cabin and put the AC on. So basically it's an AC cabin, and as I mentioned, it's an evolved cabin from the 80s design, but again, once you come inside you won't feel it's an old cabin. The things are done very neatly and updated quite well. First thing first, you need to see this dashboard, which is like in Prima, it's all driver centric, well ergonomically designed. Everything is on hand reach for the driver. There are a lot of switches over here which I'll explain later. The meter is actually analog and digital mix. Normally on the trucks you have more readings than the cars. Normally in car we have the odo, speedo and fuel maximum to temperature in the readings, but in this case there is more information like the pressure, air tank measures and everything. So it's all digital now, and the steering is again a typical old Tata steering, evolved from the old Tatas. It's not like a Prima steering, but again it's more thicker, little smaller and more broader here. Earlier it was very thin but bigger one, but now it's more easily maneuverable. You can see the switches over here. One is for the drives, like a 3 modes are there according to light, heavy, medium, the terrain we are using. There is engine brake. Apart from that, ABS brake is there. The hill start assist is there. Lot more switches are there. Gearbox, the gear lever is placed over here. This is basically the hood or bonnet where engine is there. Earlier used to be fiber bond, now it's been concealed. It can be removed, but you need to remove this rubber with the use of a you need to remove this button to remove this engine cover. And this is a sleeper cabin, single sleeper, and once it lifts you can see some space for tools, and you can also use it for storing some materials. And normally in tipper you don't have to use sleeper cabin because normally used in shifters, but these are the trucks which are mostly considered to use for longer distance from a quarry to city, longer distance. So in that case, if there is a second driver, he can take a nap over there. Everything is well ergonomically designed. You won't feel like an typical old cabin inside. It's very well done. One thing which I actually had to point out about the ergonomics is basically the door handle over here, which is hidden over here. It's not very easily usable. It's below that handrest. Here is the winder, but this is not very convenient to use this one. So that's one thing which I think should have been improved. That's everything seems to be very placed for a good truck. So guys, we are starting the drive. So I'm starting here from Tata's Kochi service center. It's not in highway basically, it's on a normal road. The first challenge for us is the maneuverability of such a long mega truck. So let's see how it maneuvers. So now I am going to a very narrow road, basically like a single lane road, and I was driving around this place and I had to take a T-turn to reach this highway road. So that was the first challenge I was encountering, and that was actually quite a tricky one, but with this 4-wheel steering and this power steering, it was quite easy, and as a driver I could easily encounter that. So that's one thing which is good about this truck, because mostly all these trucks encounter such a situation when you're going to a mine from a city or coming back from mine to a highway. You need to encounter such roads, and those conditions drivers can easily maneuver, which actually make it good for the productivity of the drivers. See, such close roads are. So I was just checking the suspension over there, because the trucks normally, especially these type of trucks, normally go with full load and come back without any load. So on this condition, if there is no enough weight for the truck, it won't be easy to control it. So when this body, the tipper body, it's quite heavy, so even on the bad patch of road, it's not actually quite uncontrollable situation. It's very controlled. Even the humps are encountered very neatly. So that is one thing best about this truck. And talking about the engine, it's a Cummins engine with 253 HP and 950 Nm of torque, mated to a 9-speed gearbox, which is similar to the Prima. So it's having 8 speed plus 1 low range and a reverse. How to use this gear I had mentioned in the Prima review, which is like 4 low range and 4 high range and 1 crawl gear. And normally in this condition we have to use the high 4-speed, like the 5th to 8th gear, and 2nd to 4th gear is the low range spec, and 1 is the low, which is like in this case is 1 to 4 and 6 to 8. So refined engine, and normally in trucking industry, economy really matters. So it's also an economical engine with the good efficiency and TATA claim. And most important is the payload, and this is the most. And this is the truck which can carry most loaded tipper without a trailer. So this is the most or the heaviest tipper version available right now in India for on-road truck. I'm not talking about the mine trucks or the dump trucks. I'm not talking about the mine trucks or the dump trucks which are quite big. That's a turbo. So this is how these trucks are enjoyed. You know, like it's always fun to drive heavy vehicles. I love it. And I'm loving this moment. See here also the hump. It's not jumping like the normal Kali truck. One more encounter. And this seat also help you how to absorb the humps from the suspension. So I now touched the proper highway and I'm in the higher range of gears, maneuvering it very easily, cruising like normal truck guys do, not the exorbitant truck guys. I'm not going like this. I'm going very partially, very properly, but again, I'm going very calmly and enjoying the drive. But if you want, you can also drive very sparsely because this is not the load and it's got enough power to do that. So whenever I want to overtake that tanker, I can easily do without any problem. So there are a few trucks coming up. There's an junction ahead. So let's wait and see. So I'm just overtaking that same tanker which overtook me earlier easily, because as I said, it's got enough power. You just need to know the size of the truck so that you don't actually cross the other vehicles when you're overtaking. So as I said, there are 3 driving modes available on this truck, which is the normal mode, which is light, medium and heavy. It depends on the load you take and the terrain you encounter. If you're on a highway like this, you need to use the light mode only, and if you are on a gradient and with load, you can use it with the medium, and if it's a higher gradient and with more road, you can do the heavy mode. The throttle will respond accordingly, and you can also control it with the gear. As I mentioned, the lower gears will be better for that. Steering will be easy because the steering we had experienced earlier also, the same steering is there in the Prima, is quite good. Suspension, as mentioned, it plays very well. So here I encoded again a pad patch, was fine. So basically Signa may be a traditional kind of truck, but inside when you drive, everything has been improved and modernized for a new generation truck. So with this kind of a payload, you can have a great business with this truck. So you can try it out if you are onto this business of mining or construction or maybe even a logistic. Try this truck out and try this truck out. It'll be good. You won't be disappointed. So I was really having good fun as always with the heavy truck. This is the exclusive review of this new truck. If you liked it, if you like it, please do like it, share it, and if you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please do subscribe and click that bell button so that you can get all the updates whatever we upload on our video as soon as we do that. Until we meet next, stay safe and enjoy your driving and enjoy your life.